Good evening. If you'll take your blue books, we'll turn to page 119. 116, I'm sorry, Tammy. I'm sorry. We have heard the joyful sound. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Spread the tidings all around. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Bear the news to every land. Climb the steeps and cross the waves. Onward to the Lord's command. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Rafted on the rolling tide. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Tell to sinners far and wide. Jesus saves. Islands of the sea, echo back the ocean caves. Earth's a keeper to believe. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Give the winds a mighty voice. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Let the nations rejoice. Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Shout salvation full and free. Highest hills and deepest caves. This our song of victory. Jesus saves, Jesus saves.
Brother Jared, would you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Let's turn to number 60. We'll sing the first and last. I want to be a soul winner for Jesus every day. He does so much for me. I want to aid the lost sinner to live his erring way and be from bondage free. A soul winner for Jesus, a soul winner for Jesus. Oh, let me be each day a soul winner for Jesus, a soul winner for Jesus. He has done so much for me. I want to be a soul winner till Jesus calls for me to lay my burdens down. I want to hear him say, "Servant, you've gathered many sheaves. Receive a starry crown." A soul winner for Jesus, a soul winner for Jesus. Oh, let me be each day a soul winner for Jesus, a soul winner for Jesus. He has done so much for me.
Good evening. Didn't I just see y'all a little bit ago? It's always funny to me to get up here and say good afternoon and all that, where I felt like we just seen each other and did all this just a minute ago, but I hope everybody's had a good afternoon. Hope you got a chance to go home and take a nap. I did not today, and I certainly missed it. It's been a busy day, but it's been a good day, and I'm grateful the Lord's given me the opportunities that He has. As far as announcements goes, just to reiterate what we talked about this morning, we got these shoe boxes we're going to try to get packed up by September the 13th. List is on the back here if you want to buy some stuff to help stuff these things. If you got the skills to wrap, you can come up and help them wrap them and pack them up and all that good stuff. And even if you don't have the skills to do it, I'm sure somebody here can show you how to do it. So anyway, we got anything else we need to announce this afternoon? Don't look like Brother Jerry got his nap either. All right. Sounds like a good time to me. I don't know about snacks, though. That early in the morning seems like we need grits and biscuits and... All right. Well, that sounds good. Looking forward to that. Fifth Sunday, I know that's one of those days where you don't draw as big a crowd, especially at 8 o'clock in the morning, but it always seems to turn out to be a good service for some reason. So, but adding that to it, I think that'd be a great day. Anything else we need to announce? All right, we'll move on to prayer requests. We got any prayer requests? Unspoken? Brother John, do you want to lead us in a word of prayer?
Let's stand as we turn to number 62.
Jesus dear God, be with those who came this morning and are going through struggles, dear God. May you allow them to seek you and find strength in you, Lord God. So I pray. Amen.
Your fingers get tired. Did your fingers get tired?
No, they were finished, so there wasn't a reason for me to keep going. I can go faster if you want me to.
All right, there ain't no sense in me making some long introduction. We all know Miss Lane and knows that she's servant heart and nature, and just so proud to have her here with us. But even prouder that we able to watch her go and work abroad from time to time as well. I know you're going to talk about Zambia today, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Wanting you to talk about that. I got to thinking during song service. What was your first mission trip, and how did you get so involved with missions in the first place? Would you mind talking about that a little bit? Huh? Yeah. I'm just curious.
Can everybody see this? Can everybody see this? I have a mic, Brother Bain. It's just for you. He still can't hear me. So a lot of people know my, it's hard for me to talk about this, Brother Michael, and not be emotional because you put me on the spot, but I'm going to try to. When I very first was saved, you know, I was not churched. I guess that's the right way to say it. I really had not grown up in church. It was a Southern Baptist church. It was minimal talks about missionaries and mission work. And I remember, though, going on a, because, you know, when you're not churched, all you do is go to the youth group. You show up on Sunday morning, and then you go to the youth group, because that's discipleship, or that's what I learned discipleship was, which is another reason that it's so important to me now. But I remember being on a youth trip to some kind of mission fuge or centrifuge or whatever it was called at that time. And I remember in a moment of truth. You know how you pray sometimes, and you pray and you speak true prayers to the Lord, deep in your heart, that you really mean. And then sometimes you pray and I think you're just using up time. Well, then I didn't really have a lot of growth, so there was very few times in my young life that I remember praying prayers that were actually deep down. And deep down in my heart, I remember saying that one day, Lord, I wanted to serve you wherever you wanted me to be, even if it meant you wanted me to be in Africa. And I remember that now because it was a funny thing. And then I prayed that same prayer when I met Ben, even though sometimes now I get annoyed. And so there are a few definite times in my young Christian growth that I remember praying true heart prayers to the Lord. He answered those prayers. And so, but life does, we make decisions, and sometimes those decisions are not in the Lord's will for our lives, but He's good. And He takes things that Satan could use for bad and turn into something good. And And I've experienced that, and I know that that's true. And my first mission trip was when a group of GMA girls and I went to Ukraine, and it changed my life. I saw it helped me be a better mother. It helped me be a better Christian. It helped me be a better servant of Christ on that trip. And it, for whatever reason, took me being in Ukraine to do that. But in that trip, I saw how the Lord could still use me, even though I was unusable and weak and not where I wanted to be spiritually, and probably not where He wanted me to be in that moment. But He used that to change my whole life. So that was my first trip. So anyway, I do want to tell y'all something about this trip, because I know that my husband has told people, and this is one of those things about him hurting my feelings, that people ask me to go places and I just always say yes. And that is not true. Even though he thinks that's true, that's not true. When I got back so a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, at the national meeting, I don't know if I've told y'all this, but I ran into the Quillmans. They were there, and I talked to them at their table. And Sharon, she's kind of put it to you like it is. That's just her personality, and that I like that kind of personality, because sometimes a little truth it cuts, and it's just truth. And we were sitting there talking, and she said, "So you've been on BMMI trips, and you've been on girls' mission trips, but you've never been to Zambia. Why?" And I said, "Well, I really never felt the Lord pull me to there." And in my mind, I was thinking, and I'm not in a hurry, because I just ain't all about, I just knew how hard that was going. That's a hard trip, And I looked at my friend Lisa Rust, and I said, "The Lord has never called me there, but it's going to take Him doing some really serious work for me to go, just so you know." And I kind of laughed, and we went on about our business. And then the BMMI list came out, and I had some ladies at work telling me they wanted to do a medical mission trip and wanted to do it with me. And I was like, "You don't have to wait on me to do a medical mission trip. I'll show you how you do it." And I was looking online, and I was showing them. And the first trip on the list that was actually close to time was Zambia. And they were like, "What about that one?" And I was like, I said, "That's a hard trip. And that's right after I get back from Guatemala." And in my mind, and I never said it out loud, and that's how the Lord works sometimes, I said, I would be too tired, and that's a very expensive trip. I don't have money to save up for that. So those are things that I thought in the back of my mind. I never said those things out loud. And so I got home, and I saw, in the last year, I've been seeing requests through BMMI. They need help. They need people to serve. They need people who are willing to go and support BMMI, and there's not a lot of that happening. And every time I saw it, I felt guilty, because I feel bad, because I was like, "Lord, I'm doing these other things. I can't do that too." But I was praying for them, and I was praying them to provide people and to provide finances, and because I do know they do good work. And then Angela texted me, and she said, "I know this is really crazy, and it's not any time for you to think about it, really, but we need some help in Zambia. Really, we need a provider." And I said, that was easy. "I'm not a provider." I texted her right back. She said, "Yeah, I know, but you've had to help as a provider before when y'all got in a crunch, and I've talked to the doctors about it, and if there's any way you can work it out in your schedule, we'll find the money." And in that moment, I knew I couldn't say no, because those were all the things in my head. But then I said, I can't work that out with my schedule. And then I looked at my schedule, and my schedule for work is all messed up, because I'm fixing to start school, and they're finding people to replace me since I'm going to be in school, and they're all taking all my shifts. So I literally was going to miss like 2 shifts at one job, and like 3 shifts at the other job. And then the day that I had to let Angela know, I got a text message that the doctor at the other job I was working at was not going to be there one of those shifts that I had and that I was going to have. And so then I'm like, "Okay, Lord." So I was tired. I know Miss Sandra told me I still seem tired. But so I'm going to this was why I wasn't super excited about the trip, because I knew how hard it was going to be to get there, not the work, just getting there. So this first picture that I'm showing you is when Ben texted me and asked me, did you see anything about London? And so I sent in this picture. This double-decker airplane we're about to get on, that's what I saw in London, because we were stuck in the airport for 6 hours. Louder? I'll make the picture bigger. See if I can do that, Lakeland. So that was it. This is my sweet friend right here, Rhonda, with her leg propped up, because she's 68, and so she was going on the trip, and so in between the 10-hour flight, the 9-hour flight and the 10-hour flight, she had to lay on the floor in the airport and prop her legs up. This picture right here, and I'll try to talk about some of the people that went on the trip, because it just reminds us the Lord uses us at all ages. And the excuses that you make in the back of your head when He tells you to do something, He can handle those too. He just needs you to say yes, and He will handle the rest. And that is hard to say sometimes, but it is so wonderful to see what He does. So this picture is from the window, and I know some of you people hate planes, so this is probably not fun to look at, but this is Africa. You see, if you've ever been in a plane and you look down at Mississippi, and I've got a picture at the end, it's very green. This is not green. It is a desert. And so just a little bit about Africa that I can tell you that I didn't know, because I looked nothing up before I left, because those things tend to make me anxious, except for I looked for mountains on a picture, because I told Ben, I was like, I'm going to be good. There's not an altitude issue because there's no mountains in Africa. All of Africa is a mountain. It's a mile above sea level, the whole continent. So now y'all know. And I don't know what it is about me and altitude, but it's a problem. But it is a mile above sea level. I think that's why the sunsets are so much prettier. It's because it's flat and it's open, and there is something about it. And so it's Colorado City is what the missionary told me that day when I started feeling pretty bad. And he tried to tell me they could give me some IV fluid, and I was just kind of thinking, I don't know that I want that, but here in Africa. But anyway, it would have been fine. This was our very first day that we got there. So we left. It took us 36 hours to get to where we were going. And I didn't calculate that. We had a policeman on the trip, and he was counting every minute, and that was he was complaining about. But so the one person who's the youngest person on the trip is the one taking all these great pictures, and her name is Alyssa. She's been to Zambia 3 times. And when we got there, we were working with Brother Michael, he's in the back, and his wife Sharon. They're the Quillmans. They're in Zambia. The other missionary couple that's in Zambia is I'm going to pronounce their name wrong because it's not the way that it sounds, but it's the Paris family. And I have some pictures of them coming up. But we worked 7 clinic days in a row, which they don't hardly ever do that many with BMMI, but we wanted to cover both missionaries while we're there. So this was our first day. We landed. We went to our apartments in Livingston, or Livingstone is what they say there. And our apartments they had water and they had power and they had bathrooms and showers. Sometimes we'd have hot water. It was kind of on a schedule. But they were nice. I mean, we had air conditioner. This is wintertime in Zambia, so it's like 50 and 60 in the morning. It gets to about 80 or 90 by early afternoon, and then as soon as the sun goes down, it drops to 60. It's 112 degrees there in the summertime. And it's dry heat. Which people say it's not as bad as humidity, but I mean, I don't care. 112 is hot. I don't care if it's got humidity or not. But just so I can point out the ages of these people, I think there were 4 of us under 50, maybe 5. But this lady's a nurse. She's been retired for several years. She's had like 2 or 3 back surgeries. And the rest of these ladies are older, as you can see. This is Miss Shirley and Dr. Ladd. They go on all the BMMIs. He was a doctor for 40 years in Mexico. He was a missionary in Mexico, and he's in his 80s. And Dr. Ralph, which I'll show you that picture, he had his birthday while we were there. He was 92, turned 92 while we were there. So the first day we were there, we went to bed, and we got up the next morning and we went and ate breakfast at that place, and then they took us to Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls is like one of the wonders of the world. You see, again, I didn't know. And so when we got there, there were monkeys everywhere, and they said, don't make eye contact with the monkeys, don't take out anything shiny, and if the monkeys steal your stuff, don't chase them, because they'll go deeper into the woods and you'll lose all your passport and all your stuff. And I was like, so I'm not making any eye contact with monkeys. I won't even take a picture, right? So these are not my pictures, because I was, a little paranoid of the monkeys. But anyway, so these are all the different animals, and they're everywhere. Somebody was taking these pictures. These are pictures of the falls. They were beautiful. We hiked down to this point, a mile and a half. Not everybody, it's just 3 of us, but I hated not to see it. But it's a boiling point's what they call it. It's where all the water comes together. And we got down there, and there was a whole crowd of people. And I was like, well, actually, I was so tired at that moment when I got down there, and I was like, I don't know how fancy, I don't know if this is spectacular enough for me feeling like I'm dying, because the altitude, and I couldn't breathe. But when we got down there, we sat down, and Stephen, who's a pharmacist, who's going to help organize these trips now, some guy came over to talk to him, I guess because he was a white guy at the falls, and he spoke English. And immediately, Stephen started saying, so if you went to heaven, why would they let you in? He just immediately started witnessing to the guy, because the guy was trying to talk to him. I was like, okay, Lord, that's why we're here, right? And it was just a reminder, And Stephen, he's a good guy, good Christian man, and he knew why we were there, and he kept that as the focus. And even though that guy might not have said or done anything that made him feel like his witnessing was worth it, there was another guy recording him the whole time he was witnessing. And I was like, maybe they'll take that back and read that and watch that over and over and show it to people. Here I am talking to this white man who I've never seen before, and this is what he's doing, is he's telling me about the Lord. So it was very loud. There's a part of these falls, these falls border Zambia and Botswana. And there is a section that it's all rainbows. Like you walk through and it's just it's like it has a name of rainbows, but it's just hard to explain. I don't think I could even appreciate it all. And that afternoon, because they want to fun you up, I guess, right before you start this long work week, they took us on a sunset cruise on the Zambian River. And so, again, lots of sunsets that we got to see. The Zambian River is very dangerous. I said when all these people were telling me that they really don't have water, right? They have to go to wells to pull water, 5-gallon buckets. They walk on their head home every day. So they don't take baths. And one of the times we were on there, I looked over and I said, I don't know, I might have to chance it. Would just have to chance it and take my bath in that river. And then, of course, they all laughed, all the people from there. They're like, and you will die, because there's crocodiles everywhere and hippos and all these other things. So these are their huts. This is not a house hut. This is like a gathering place, but this is what it looks like. No power, no water, none of that. And so we stayed in Livingston. They drove us out in a van to the first village we went to. These villages are still run by chiefs, and they have chiefdoms areas. So everything that you do, you have to get the approval of the chief to do. The Quillmans have done an incredible job of being used by the Lord and how they work through some of these systems, these cultural systems. The first place that we went, and that's going to be this next picture, is a village that has a school, and the chief requested us to do a clinic day there. So we said, yes, sir. and that's where our first clinic day was. This chief has become really good friends with the Quillmans. He is a believer. He actually is the one who gave them the land to build their home on that they're fixing to build, and he's building his palace. That's what they call the chief's house, even if the palace looks not much better than that, some of them. He's building it behind the Quillman's home where they're going to build their home. So they've built a close relationship, and that has been a blessing for their ministry. The Quillmans have also started a school in the area that they're working in. They're board members for the deaf school there, so they help out with the deaf school. They built a relationship with the hospital there, so they get meds that the hospital cannot get. And then that relationship extends, so when stuff happens out in the community and they need things from the hospital, they have a relationship with the hospital. Now they can go back and forth. I mean, just to see how the Lord is working through them was overwhelming. So this was our first clinic day. It was good. I had a lot of really good patients that day. This sweet boy, this is the most favorite thing he owns, I think. I don't remember the story behind it, but this kid he's one of the, has nobody. He wanders the village. He has no family. He didn't have anybody to take care of him. And that's his sister, and she had a little dress, and they were trying to take care of each other. He had a burn. It wasn't even a burn. He had some kind of lesion on his leg that he had been treating with charcoal for like 6 months. And so we found a way to clean it and get it cleaned up, and then we found a nurse that worked in that village that could meet him to clean that and take care of that for him. Every day he was going to have a dress and change while we were there. And so this sweet baby was the only baby that I saw with Down syndrome the whole time we were there. She was precious. That's her mom and her sister. This is her sister. And her sister was carrying her. That's something that we noticed a lot. Like, once the siblings get old enough to hold the babies on their back for their moms, because the moms are holding water and food and everything else, they become the caretakers of the siblings. So I took her from the sister to kind of give her a little break, and, it's a lot. And the Lord was good to me, because one of the reasons that I was antsy and uneasy about going was I didn't want anything to happen with Lakeland while I was gone. And this was my first clinic day, and this was my translator, Daisy. And they're due the same week. They're the same age, and it's her first baby, too. And so he was, I feel so convicted about sometimes how I can be slow to respond to what he wants me to do, because I worry about petty things that I know he can handle. And so on this trip, I guess, because I was so resistant and he had some mercy, every day that I was there, he showed me why I was supposed to be there. So this was a funny sign, because I just thought, I always thought elephants were great. They're so pretty. They're so, at a circus or, at the zoo, they're very dangerous. Like, all kind of people get killed from elephants there. And so this is not supposed to be a funny sign. That's a real sign. And they'll shut down restaurants and make you stay in the restaurant until the elephants clear out, because if they're on the roads or out around, because, they will kill you. I mean, they will. That's one of the, I forget how many people. Brother Michael kept telling us how many people died from elephants, how many people died from all them snakes. And I was like, look now, that's enough. This was church service. I didn't get faces. That's my translator for this. This is their church. Brother Michael says they dance. That's cultural. So they're doing their walk-in. The whole church was full. the very front of the church had tarps on the floor for people who could not walk, who were carried into the service. So there's their hymn book. They had a hymn book. And a lot of the songs, My Hope is Built, they're very similar to some of our songs. And one of the ladies that came with us, she was a teacher. She was in her 60s, Miss Rhonda, and she sang at the service. And it was a song that they sang in their language that she sang in English. That was beautiful. So that first day that the second day we saw patients, this is their church. This is the church they established. And so they told their church members that first clinic day at the church was going to be for them. So everybody that came to church could be seen at the clinic. So he said they had a little bit more people there than usual. But so this was, everybody went back outside and then came back in, and we saw them. There was, these are just some pictures of that area, the community that they live in. These are their houses. I went to a house that second day, I think. They have a church member. She just had a baby. And they opened the door to the hut. It was her mama, and I think and a son, and the new baby. And when they opened the door, the whole, it's more than half of the hut was full of 50 and 60 pound bags of maize corn. And in my mind, I didn't understand in that moment, so I waited. And there was one bed on the back side of the door, and that was for all of them. Her mother, her son, and the new baby. So they live off maize corn there. Y'all know maize corn, the one we decorate in Thanksgiving. That's hard and not good. They grind that down to a powder, and they make shawarma, and that's what they live off of. And it's 5 and 6 and 7-year-old little kids who cook over an open fire, and they do that. And so I've got some pictures coming up. But so she's storing her year's worth of crop to make it. Not for her to eat. They sell it to the country. The country comes through and they set up selling stations and they sell all that, and that gives them enough money to survive the year. That's what that's for. That's their predominant, 90% of their diet is what they make from that corn. Okay, so me and my translator, this was a normal picture. So this lady actually has some greens, and they kind of look like turnip greens, but they have a different name. And that's water she's carrying on her head. So that's a 5-gallon bucket of water. That night, we went to a restaurant to eat, and these zebras were walking around. Everybody's like, did you pet them? And absolutely not, because they will hurt you. But they're pretty, and that was them. Now, this was in Livingston. This was the second day of clinic. We were seeing multiple patients. When we pulled up, they were already waiting outside. It took 2.5 hours to get there from Livingstone. It's not that far. This dirt that we're riding on to get there, we were in the van, is like something you would pay to go four-wheeling on or something somewhere. It is a fine powder sand. And it's so fine that the air conditioner vents can't catch it. So when they would turn the air conditioner on in the van, it would just come through the van. And it was so bad that several people hunted old masks from COVID to put on because, it was pretty rough. That's why I'm sure, so congested when I got back. And you're trying to travel over that, and the wheels are just turning. It's slow moving. And that's why it takes so long to get out here. But they walk for hours to come to clinic. We had patients that walked for 4 and 5 hours to come see providers. Zambia. Livingston is in Zambia. It's the capital. These are villages outside of Livingston. And this was my translator's son, Joseph. And the only reason he was So this day he walked in and he was gathering up his stuff. This is one of my favorite little things. And he was over there. He was, you know how little kids, because you can't change this, right? They just sing. And he's over there and he's singing, "My God is so big, so strong and so mighty." And I got so excited and I was like, "What are you singing, Joseph?" And he started whispering it lower because when you address them, they want to. And so anyway, I said, "I know that song." So on my one break I got, me and Joseph, we had a whole "My God is so big" session. And we sang it and used all the different voices which he'd never heard before and made all these funny faces. So it was a good time. So these are more pictures. You know, that's those buckets that they're carrying. And then they come and they complain about neck pain and back pain. And I'm like, and yes, I know why. I know why. So this was one of the people that, you know, walked like 5 hours for me to look at something on his foot. So we dressed it. We had some antiseptic. We talked about how to clean it. We had a system. Those benches right there are their church pews, just in case you thought you was uncomfortable in that padded pew with the no air, and that's them. That's Melita. She's one of the providers. I wanted this picture in my slideshow because the Quillmans have done a really good job with the way that they've set this school up. So in Zambia, you have to pay to go to school, or that's how it was when they got there. And so they set up a school in this community. This is their church area. They picked people that were trying to be teachers, and they made them teachers in the school, and they found sponsors to pay their way through school. So they're going to be certified teachers like next year. And then they found people to sponsor a child for $130 a year. You sponsor a kid, and you pay, and they have food every day with protein in it that they do not get at home because they don't have protein at home. There's no meat, so they get protein. They get clothes, they get shoes, they get books, they get everything they need for school. And so this couple, which they probably wouldn't want me to put this out, but that's okay. Carrie and Brian, they sponsored this little kid. And that's one of them. They have two, but this was just the one picture I got. So they actually got to meet the kid that they've been sponsoring for the last 2 years, I think, when they were there. And the mom, and Brother Michael was like, they're quiet. They're not emotional people. They're taught to not show emotion. And so he was telling Carrie and Brian, don't think that her not showing emotion meant she was ungrateful. When you walked off, she walked around the building and was on her knees crying. Thankful that somebody cared enough about their daughter to help her with her education. Yeah. And so this is how I know I'm getting old, is I become a bird watcher while I was there. But they were some of like the prettiest birds. I mean, like this multiple colors, and like, I mean, it was, I obviously don't know enough about animals, but it was beautiful. This was the night the Quillmans cooked us a traditional Zambian meal. So the things that are kind of like greens, that's what's in those top and bottom pots, with what they call ground seeds, which are peanuts, ground up. And that was actually pretty good. The thing in the middle is like a root. It was not bad. I didn't try everything, so I didn't feel the need to branch out too much. That's greens in the top, and y'all know okra. That's okra and tomatoes stewed. I don't eat that here. I still wouldn't eat that there. Those are sardines. Yeah, I didn't do that either. And then those are caterpillars, which was not for me. And mostly because I watched the other people who claimed they were going to try them, and they chewed them up and chewed them up and chewed them up and chewed them up, and then couldn't convince themselves to swallow it. So I was like, it's not for me. So no, that was this stuff right here. Those brown looking things. They're supposed to be good. So this is chicken, and their chicken is different than our chicken because their chickens are not fat. They're they're like lean chickens because they're running around, I don't know, everywhere. And so the meat is different. But we had chicken. They have that is their when they eat protein. That's it. But that's what the shawarma looks like. It almost looks like mashed potato wads, and they take little pieces of that and they roll it in a ball, and then they flatten it out like a spoon, and they eat whatever else is in their bowl or their whatever, and then they eat that. But that is 90% of their diet. It's made from maize corn and water. And that's why they have issues with anemia and vitamin deficiencies. Like epilepsy is like a common thing there, and I just can't help but wonder if it's not like a vitamin B deficiency because they don't get the nutrition they need. And I just took this picture because I wanted Ben to get me a dog like this. That's the missionary's dog. He's like some kind of English bull mastiff. I don't know. She was big. So then we went back to clinic days. More clinic days. You see, that's Dr. Izzard on the end. He made me take his stitches out of his nose because he had just had skin cancer surgery before he left. And Dr. Ladd. This is a sign that my friend Laurie Hicks painted from Arkansas when she went there like a year and a half ago, and I was wanting to make sure I saw her artwork, and that's in the school. After we saw patients, when we were done, I went over and tried to help in the pharmacy because we had to tell them all the meds we were giving them, why to take it, how to take it, and so that was those pictures. Okay, so this is my other reason. This lady walked 2 hours, barely could walk the first day she showed up. And she came up and she was telling me how she had a spot on her upper thigh. So they sent her to me. We're going to send her to me or Melita. So we went to the bathroom, and I could show you a video of what they call a bathroom, and you never would leave the country again. And I looked at it, and she had an abscess that had went all the way up into her pelvis and was going down her leg, that she had opened up herself. And I had heard them talking that we had some injectable medicine, but none of the doctors don't give shots, right? It's the only benefit of being a nurse. So we had Brother Michael, we talked about it, and he went to the hospital and got me some lidocaine, and she came 3 days in a row for me to give her an injection for the infection and 2 antibiotics by mouth. And by the 3rd day, she was walking and smiling. This was our last day. And he told me that if of course, this is big talking from a missionary. If you had not been there, she just died because she would not have gone to the hospital. They go to the hospital to die, is what he said. And so they're afraid of the hospital. And she would have rather them take her leg off than her go. And so it was a whole thing. But she was very sweet. And scared to death because nobody likes to get shots. But she did well. And so it was a blessing to be able to be there to help her with that. More pictures. So this is my most sad picture. Because I'm a sap. Because he's got one shoe, but he's wearing his one shoe. And he's probably, Alyssa took this picture, but he's probably one of the kids that just roam, that doesn't have a place. So here's how we wash our clothes, ladies and gentlemen. You walk with that 5-gallon bucket on your head to somewhere, and then you scrub them all, and you hang them up to dry, and you start over. That's Alyssa. She's 19. This is her 3rd time to Zambia. And so she got to play with the kiddos and take a bunch of pictures for us. That's why I have all these pictures of myself. This is the ground I was telling y'all about. It's not a good picture. I tried to do a video because this was about the time that we were going, and all of a sudden it was like a windstorm that came up both sides of the van, and the wheels just turned. So when you have a vehicle out there, you need to have everybody has one of those winch things. And Michael, this would be all about you, right? And I think Brother Michael, like, he eats that up. He's always looking for stuck people, right? Because that's a good time to witness. He'd be like, you know, I can pull you out of this ditch. Who else can pull you out of a ditch? he rolls with it. So Brother Michael is set up, and Miss Sharon, they have set up, like, they've got some cows. They have a whole bunch of goats. So people come needing things, like needing money for this or that. They don't have money, they'll give them a goat. So they take those goats and they have them butchered one however much time they need it, and that's the protein for the kids in the school. So, and then when they need to butcher a cow, because they don't have enough goats or whatever, they'll butcher a cow, and that's the protein for the school. So everything works to feed the next program or meet the next need. So this guy was riding his bike. That's charcoal he's carrying, and he's on that road. So I'm, you know, I don't have no idea how long it took him to go, but it was a bogged down, constant mess. And there's this sweet lady. There's not a lot of, as they said, cats in this area. There are a lot of elephants, but not cats in this area. They're in Botswana, which is the neighboring country. So all these kids in uniforms, these are school kids. And that's their uniform. And it's wintertime there. So 50 degrees is like 30 below to them. And I don't know why. Because those kids would be in full-blown, like, I don't even know in the wintertime if we ever even use that kind of outfit on a kid here. But they would be like, and they would have fever. And I would be like, and Dr. Ladd was where she's like, take off some of that stuff, right? So anyway, this was in the afternoon with these sweet kiddos. So again, we had the triage. We had this nurse doing triage and prepare to come back to see us. There's Dr. Izzard. And this is when we were working with the fairies. This is the school that they were helping with. So we did it in their school. So we did 4 clinic days with the Quillmans, and then 3 clinic days with them. These are all pills. So you wonder what all these people are doing, okay? Because there's only... So this is Mr. David. He's a cattle farmer. He's in his 80s. And he counted pills. And we needed him to count pills. And he counted pills all day long. Every time we were in clinic. And that's what all these people are doing right here. They're pill counting. So this is the kids. This is their lunchtime. So that's shawarma right there in their bowl. They're all sharing it. And that's what they're having. That's Brother Craig. He is a retired airline pilot, and he's working hard. That's the pharmacy. They're waiting, and that's Brother Joshua. He's our other missionary in Zambia. He's translating for everybody. That's one of his children. Just a bunch of sweet kids and all kinds of different problems. Very few patients with diabetes, which seems crazy because they live off corn. But they're so active because they have to be. So I guess that sort of balances out. But he thought he might be a diabetic. He was not. So that's Brother Mike. He's a pastor, and he came to evangelize, and he ran the evangelism corner. So how we work it in perfect scenario, they come in, they check in, they wait in line, they see the providers, they go to the evangelism corner, and they are witnessed to and evangelized to. Then they go to the pharmacy. If they need glasses or whatever, they go to the section for readers. And then also while we were there, we had, so several ladies had been there before, and they knew about what the need was. So they had a group of people at their church crochet toboggans. And then another group made those little pillowcase dresses. And another group made little shorts. And so those things were all being passed out while all this other stuff was going on. And then as far as toys, because these kids have none, at church that Sunday, I remembered Brother Michael saying this, but I really didn't visualize it in my head. He said, you're going to see them pushing water bottles around. That's their toys. And I look over and I see this little boy, and he's on his little hands and knees, and he's going with a water bottle, you know. So somebody brought Matchbox cars, and they were ecstatic. Like, they didn't even know, like, what to do next with this Matchbox car. And one kid got a helicopter, because, you know, sometimes they'll come in there. He didn't know what it was, so I got to show him what a helicopter was. It was good stuff. So that's Brother Stephen. He's a pharmacist. He's in his 60s, but he doesn't act like it. So here they are, playing with their little cars. These are all the missionary. That's 3 of their kids. They have 4 children. They're sweet, sweet kiddos. This one is the youngest, and one day I had a piece of chocolate, and that was all it took, right? Every day after that, he was beside my side, waiting for me to find him another piece of chocolate. And so, one thing about the Zambian culture that was hard for me to understand, but I mean, it's just hard. It's just a really hard life. Brother Michael does a funeral every week, and it's normal. Like, they just accept it. Babies die, old people die, young people die, and it's constant. And kids who have problems and adults who have health problems, they're really just left to fend for themselves. Some of these kids, so Melita is a provider that went last year that came back this year. And what was on her heart when she came back this year was last year they had 2 or 3 kids that had such bad contractures from burns that they could not use their hand, and one of them couldn't even lift her head because she had it burned on her neck and it just had her locked. She came home and she thought about it for a year until she prayed about it and couldn't take it anymore, and she actually found a surgeon in a big city fairly close to them that could fix contractures on children. And they would do it for free if you could get them to them. So she came with a mission this year to find every kid that had a contracture. And we took pictures of them, we made notes about them, and then she found people in the United States that would sponsor their way to and from that city where they would do the surgery. Because sometimes when they go to those big cities to have the procedures done, they can't afford to get back home, so they're trapped there. So that was her heart. And so we had saw numerous kids. And those kids with contractures in their hands, they are literally left to fend for themselves. Nobody can take care of them. And it can be fixed with that surgery. And so we did have 2 or 3 kids that we saw this time that we took pictures of and sent that off. And that was a blessing to know. And Brother Michael will follow up with them. He will make sure that it happens. My heart was broken. I had a mom who walked like 4 hours to see us in clinic for her son because he had a seizure disorder. And he was alienated from every kid his age, basically his family, and she sat in desperation across from me for me to have no seizure med to give her because we don't carry the seizure meds in the pharmacy on BMMI. So I sat there, and I just wanted to cry, and I'm like, Lord, why am I here? I can't even help this kid. I don't know what you want me to do. And so he came over there kind of close to me, and I gave him a sticker. He didn't know what a sticker was, so we have to teach him what a sticker is. And I could have put my arm around him, and he leaned into me just like he had never been touched. It was pitiful. He was my little buddy. So he stayed right beside me, and his mama was almost teared up because somebody actually cared about her kid. And as a mama, you know how hard that is. And so, anyway, we did have B vitamins, and we had some vitamins, and I was like, let's try this. If we can do nothing else, we can start with some of these vitamins. And then I talked to Stephen, and I was like, look, we need to stock. when we go to places like this and we know that seizure disorders are an issue, we should try to stock those meds. I mean, I know we can't give them to them we can give them 3 months worth, though, you know. So it's just things, sometimes it takes different people coming into stuff to have other ideas. I also want them to be able to check pregnant women's H&H, even though we know we're going to give them iron. That is a hurt, and that's a concern for them. And if they know it's okay or it's close to okay, they can have some peace about that they're doing right for their baby. There's a little fella just walking around. So more people that were on the trip. This is Brother Andy. Brother Andy was a missionary, him and his wife, for a long time. He worked with Mercy Ships. I know y'all have heard of Mercy Ships. He worked with Mercy Ships for years, and he goes on BMMI trips now. He's in his 70s, I think, but he's from England. He's British, so he's entertaining. And Miss Stephanie, and y'all can be praying for her husband, Richard. He's donating 70% of his liver on the 26th to a church member. And they don't usually do that, living donations for liver, but he checked into it and found a way that he could. And so he's doing that for a fellow church member, and y'all be in prayer for them. That's a lot of complications that can happen. There's my friend again. Thought I had some more chocolate. So this is just an example of the lines that people are coming in. There he is again. It's a very busy day. So yeah, there's some more little fun kiddos. That's not a lightweight when they stood in line, and so we were happy to give them Tylenol or ibuprofen, even though they can't take the kind of doses we do. They take like 500 of Tylenol and they sleep for 2 days. So it's what your body's used to. So sparingly. So these 2 girls are the 2 girls that the Quillmans keep in house during the school year. They're deaf. And they're in the same kingdom village that they have their ministry at. These girls were missing lots of school because they couldn't or wouldn't try to get them back and forth to school every day because it's a 2.5-hour ride. So the Quillmans actually right now are living in a house that's being loaned to them in Livingston where the school is, and they're on the board of the deaf school. So they keep them during the school year. They live with them during the school year, and so they can take them back and forth to school. So they ate dinner with us that night, and that was Dr. Ralph's birthday. And they made that cake in Zambia from a picture that that Brother Quillman showed them off Pinterest, and asked this lady if she could do that, and they whipped it up. And it probably cost like $15 instead of $800 over here. It was like 4 different flavors. It was a whole thing. And I know most of y'all don't know a lot about Dr. Ralph, but he was very excited. His wife, he took care of his wife while he's been doing all these BMMI trips. She had Alzheimer's disease, and she died like a year or 2 ago. So he is very faithful at 92. Just another Zambian sunset. This was the whole group. And these are in the center. These are the 2 sets of missionaries. Joshua, that's his wife Megan, that's their 4 children, and Brother Michael and Sharon. So Megan was on a mission trip. That's how she met Joshua, because he's actually from Zambia. And she had signed a contract, like a 9-month mission trip. She went to like 4 different countries. They met. Her contract didn't allow her to date. He ended up coming back to the United States to go to seminary. They reconnected. He went and met her parents. They were still iffy because, they met on a mission trip. But anyway, the Lord worked it all out. And she's from Colorado, but that's how they ended up together. Right here, these 2. Okay. Yep, some more kiddos with their cars and their peace signs, because everybody knows about a peace sign. This little car right here is a wood car. Dr. Ladd always brings little wood cars on mission trips because he's got some men that are close to him in Texas that use leftover wood pieces to make wood cars. And so he brings like a suitcase full of the little wood cars to pass out to kids. So yeah, this was the sort of provider picture, because y'all know I'm not a provider. So this is Miss Shirley, Dr. Ladd's wife. And I just almost called her not Rhonda as a joke, because that's what everybody kept calling her. My mind just went blank. It will come to me. But Miss Shirley does the glasses. She's got a really great setup. They bring the Bible out. They ask them what they can read and not read, and so the Lord's Word is pushed in every area. And a lot of people just want glasses, and a lot of these people just need sunglasses, because it is like blinding. There's lots of cataracts issues in Zambia because the sun is just so bright. There's Dr. Ladd, Craig. That was my translator for those 3 days that we found out had a serious issue with high blood pressure that she didn't know about. So we went over blood pressure medicine and the things that she needed to do. They do not smile in pictures. It's a whole thing. They're supposed to be stoic. So this, Brother Stephen, in this picture got to it because he had to lift all those medicine suitcases on top of that van. So if any of you young, able-bodied people think that there's not a place for you, you are mistaken, because we could have used some young, able-bodied people. Anyway, here's some more pictures. That's Cody, and she's a faithful to BMMI. She supports BMMI financially, and she goes on pretty much all the mission trips. She helps in the pharmacy. Ginger grew up a missionary kid, married and was a missionary, and now her husband's a pastor in Texas, and she serves there. I had never seen oxen pulling carriage like in real life. A lot of that. Ben asked me why didn't I get this picture, because the coolest thing I saw that I really should have had a picture of, it's like a 7 or 8 year old kid. He was standing up on the back of that with a whip. He comes, and they're like flying. He comes around the van. I mean, just whipping and laughing his little head off like he's done something, because he's passed our van in his carriage with his oxen. But yeah, he meant business. So this is a school classroom, like we said. Everybody doing their thing. Sweeties is what they call suckers, and they don't get very many sweeties, so they were excited about any kind of candy. There's kids showing their sunglasses in their cars. They're very excited about that. That's all the school campus. On the last day, they took us on a safari, or we got to pick a safari, and that's what this is the truck we went on the safari in. I was just wondering how everybody was going to get on there, but we managed to do it. It was interesting. I'm trying to see. That was the roadway we were going down to get to where the safari is. So everywhere we went out in the village, we had to come back across the reserve. So every night they were like, we got to get out of here before the elephants come through, because they will run over cars and everything else. So there were giraffes everywhere. They were in restaurants. They were all over the reserve. They were like the most popular animal that I could see, I think. These are their version of deer, but they're called impalas. They're everywhere too. There's some hippos. They're my favorite, but they're dangerous, so you like them from a distance. More hippos, crocodiles, water buffalo. They've got the 5 deadliest animals in Zambia, and elephants, they're all on the list. There's y'all monkey. They do. Yep. This is my favorite picture because I feel like this is my life. Yeah. Should be hunting a tree. Why are you trying to eat on the ground? I don't know. So this is my favorite bird, because I told you I'm old, becoming a bird watcher. It's metallic. It had metallic leaves. It literally was the prettiest thing, and they were everywhere. I mean, it was crazy pretty. More giraffes. And their color is different. Here, these are rhinos. We went to the one safari that actually had rhinos. They're endangered there. People were killing them for their, it's their horn. Their horn has medicinal purposes. And he said the safari guide said that Asian people were coming to take their horns for some kind of something. I don't know why. So that's a baby rhino and another big rhino. That's as close as we could get to it, but they wanted to take our picture. That's me and Melita. And we had to walk out with these guys with these big guns. And Michael said, "These are the people you tip." The people who are protecting you from the rhino in case the rhino charges. I thought this was interesting. That's why I took this picture. These are graves of people who were given permission to come, like try to settle this area in Zambia, Europeans. And they thought it would be safest to settle right by the river because that's where water was. I think most people would think that. And the tour guide said that they died of what they called then the black fever. But it was a form of malaria that when they finally had physicians to come, and some of these people were missionaries, but they died of, he said, a serious form of malaria. So their graveyard was there in the reserve. I don't know if you can even see that in the back, but that they called it a stork, but it acts like a vulture. So, and there's eagle. I told you I was becoming a bird watcher. So, elephants, rhinos. They actually had dorms originally built for the staff that worked in the park. All these concrete blocks that are on the ground. When the elephants decided they were in their way, or like they were in their path, so the elephants came through and just wiped out most of the area, killing I don't know how many people that were in there, because they just decide they're going somewhere, and if you're in the way, you're in the way. So they no longer house people there, as you can imagine, but it's like ruins when we went through. And the more he talked, I was like, why are we going through here? Like, are we going to be in their way? But water buffalo. Those were the lions. They actually saw these on the Botswana, and they're eating an elephant, so it's not real pretty. More birds. So, again, this is Brother Michael and Sharon. This was our last day. Just all the different people that we worked with. This was my last view of Zambia on the airplane, only to compare with my view of Mississippi when we were fixing to land. And it took 32 hours to get home. So while we were there, Brother Michael talked about the classrooms for the kids, and I just want to show y'all. These are their classrooms. You see how they're writing on there? So he said they put 30 in a classroom, and we didn't know how that would happen, so I guess he wanted to prove us, and so he sent us this picture when we got back, because this is how you put 30 in a classroom. And so here's this class, and you see they're borrowing the backs of each other, doing their little lessons. So mostly, I think it's just overwhelming, the need. In so many different areas, it was just overwhelming. At one point, I was talking to Brother Michael and Sharon, and I just said, I don't know how, when you get here, you know what to do next. Like, it's just like, because my detailed mind in that moment was like, I couldn't even process where to start. And they were like, we take one day at a time, one person at a time, and the Lord opens up all these opportunities. And I was like, and that's why you're the missionary here. So anyway, it was a blessing. I was thankful to be a part of it. I would love for us to support BMMI, not just financially, but with able bodies, or like most of the people that were on this trip, not so able bodies, willing bodies, and because it's a great group of people. And also, we asked, Brother Michael's going to be they're going to be on furlough this coming year, and so they're going to come talk to us in March. We talked to Brother Michael to make sure that was okay, and they're going to talk to us in March about what the work that they're doing, and give you all kind of great details of all the things that they're doing, because they really, I don't know, like every little resource they can get, they're putting it to use. And so I don't know how you could do a better job than that. Has anybody got any questions for me? Every trip is different. What they did for this trip is you had to pay for your flight. And then when you go, every time you go out to eat, they do like a tally, basically, and they send you out after the trip how much you owe back. This trip was really expensive because it was so long, and it's expensive to get to Zambia. I think she told me that it was like $4,000 to $5,000 for the Zambia trip, which sounds like an immense amount of money, I guess. But, I mean, if you really think about how much money we spend on cell phones and coffees and, I don't know, whatever other garbage we think is important, it's really not that much money. But, well, first of all, they don't hardly ever have the medication you need when you go. Or they don't have the people there to be able to do the test that you need. And they'll say things like after you've walked 5 hours to get there, they'll say, well, the person that can do that sonogram is not here, you'll have to come back tomorrow. That's what happened to a baby that died recently. It is. It's a government-run hospital. A baby died, and it sounded like they had pyloric stenosis. Not too long, right before we got there. They had just buried a baby that sounded just like that they had pyloric stenosis and could not diagnose it because they didn't have the sonogram. And they went home that night and the baby died. And they're church members, and you're trying to, they hurt like everybody else, you know, but anyway, that's one of the things. And then Brother Michael said one time he went to see us, because he's a pastor, so he can go in at any time there, just like you can here. And he went in to see a patient, a church member who was fixing to have surgery. And the surgery room was a huge room, and it was wide open, and all the windows were up. And he said he watched a monkey come in, grab some of the sterile stuff off the sterile table. The nurse fought the monkey to get the sterile equipment back and came and set it right back on the sterile table that they were fixing to cut the guy open with. And whatever he was having done was like something that you needed a small incision, but they cut him from chest all the way down to do it. Just to open him wide open, I guess, to make it quicker. I don't know. And so that they see that, and so that's, yeah. Yeah, that's why we had 2 people that had to go have IV fluid on the trip. They caught some kind of GI something, and I was sitting there like, we and Brother Michael, I was like, you go get the stuff, I'll just start the IVs and we'll do them in our rooms. And he was like, no, he's like, we might do that, but I've got a friend and his clinic's good. I wouldn't just take him to the, I was like, I'm just checking. But, so, yeah. But it was fine. They did fine. They took really good care of them. I think, well, in the second group that we went to, there was a lot of high blood pressure, which I thought was odd. So the second group we went to, they were further away from water, so they had more issues like kidney stuff and stuff from no fluid. And, you know, it just never was what I thought. Like now looking back, I think a lot of patients that I saw had malaria. And we're having complications of problems with malaria. I just didn't know enough to necessarily, and what we could do to treat that was not very many things, but it is wintertime there, and all this dust and all this dry, and it literally is 50 in the morning and 85 at like 3 o'clock. So they had a whole bunch of like congestion and cough and like upper respiratory things going on too. But not anything that was not manageable with minimal treatment, pretty much. There was a few things that we had to send them to, like a lot of dental problems too, because they don't have the, you know, a toothbrush is a luxury item. So everything in Zambia is cheap unless it's a luxury item. Like a towel is $109. But you can go eat a steak dinner and it's $20. Like a full spread steak dinner. So there's no like correlation of how, it doesn't make sense really. But they cook over open fires. Oh yeah. So the worst thing we saw was the very last day. And this patient, Dr. Ladd saw, and I was thankful because I could not have handled it. A baby came in screaming, wrapped up in their mom's, and I forgot to bring the little wrap thing I was going to show y'all, but wrapped up in the mama's wrap, and that baby had boiling water accidentally poured on it, and it had no skin from here to here. It was degloved. And so I was like, I looked at Melita and I was like, in our world, we call the helicopter, right? Like somebody's got to, and Dr. Ladd was just calm, and I'm like, I was not. But it had already debrided all the skin off because there was no skin. And so, and it had happened the night before. So we did like burn cream and oral antibiotics and pain medicine, because that's all we could do. And Dr. Ladd said we would just pray that the baby survives. She was 3. You can, it just becomes scar tissue skin is different skin. And I don't know if you can regrow that massive amount, but at the same time, you see stuff there that would never make it here. As Brother Michael said, they're tougher because they have to be. Like, you don't have running water, so you don't, they have, let's just say, like nobody came to me complaining of psych issues. They don't, they're just trying to live. And they're just trying to live. And yeah, so they have seizure meds, they can't afford them. There's no medical healthcare system where they give you medicine. So if you can go to the pharmacy and get whatever you want to from the pharmacy, but you have to pay for it. And if you have no water, no clothes, no food, you're not going to be able to afford the medicine. But the hospital doesn't have it all the time. Like the day that he went to go get the lidocaine for me, he had to trade out. He had to go buy seizure meds from the pharmacy and trade that out at the hospital for the lidocaine for me to give the injections because the hospital was out of seizure meds. I don't know. If she manages to not get an infection with no water and no debriding and no sterile dressing, it would be slim. Even in the United States, that's a touch and go. And then the reality is if she survives and she has some kind of defect, then she's going to be left. You're ostracized. You're ostracized. And it's not that they necessarily don't care. It's they don't have the ability to take care of somebody when they're just trying to make everybody else live. They're ostracized from the community. They have to figure out some way to fend for themselves. That's like this little kid with a seizure. When we walked outside, no one was playing with him. It's pitiful. It is pitiful. It's definitely, you know, when I was on the way back and I was getting sick, and like Brother Michael and Sharon were like sent some message like, "I'm sorry you're sick," and I'm like, this sick, this ain't like, this ain't nothing. Like we've seen way worse situations. I'm not going to complain about being sick. I'm not going to complain about being sick. I'm not going to complain about being hot. I'm not going to complain about anything. You know, I would have in my mind, and when I laughed at myself when I had to walk out there to the bathroom, and I showed my GMA girls a video of this because they didn't quite grasp what I meant by whole. Like I walked out there, kind of like in my mind, I was like, Lord, really? Like, here we go. Okay, well, I'd like to have prepped for this just a minute, you know. But in the same breath, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you? You're going home to a place where you don't have to ever worry about this, and this is their life every day. What is wrong with you? So. Uh-huh. They do sign language, and it's American Sign Language, pretty much. Because Sharon was signing with them, and some of the signs that she was using, my kids played around with sign language for a little while, and it was American Sign Language that they were using for them. And they're very sweet girls, and they do. They communicate with them, and they communicate with each other, which is what doesn't happen when they're at home, because nobody talks to them, because nobody tries to learn, because they don't have time. They're just living. Yes. So one of those girls has a terrible home life, and Brother Michael said eventually they feel like that she will not go back home, that she'll just stay with them because she's treated so poorly at home. Both of them were born deaf. And so that's a worst thing. And then the one with the really light eyes, she's got a genetic disorder that most likely she'll go blind at some point. So those two girls live with Brother Michael and Sharon during the school year. There is orphanages in the area, but they haven't started an orphanage. Yeah. Yes. Honduras or Nicaragua, Central America. They really like sunglasses and caps.